We made money to buy things. Things make us happy. We make money to pay for the cost of living. Living makes us happy. But the question comes up often, can money make us happy? And I almost always hear it said the wrong way. So I have today Millennial Mike, who's going to have a bit of a rant on the way this topic is often covered on social media, because I hear what I think comes from mentally challenged people. They say things like, money can't buy happiness. That is something that rich people say so that poor people don't revolt. Because happiness for most people comes from not having problems. Problems come from not having money. So money won't solve your problems, but money will solve money problems. And a lot of people's stress, depression, anxiety comes from the problems that come from not having money. So I'm going to talk about a mistake that I recognize when we talk about most of the studies that were done on how much money does it actually take to reach happiness, and money beyond that doesn't add to our happiness. Those studies were done several times, and I haven't seen one talk about the thing that I see wrong with each one of those studies. So first, I'm going to hand the floor over to Millennial Mike, who is currently investing on his path to financial freedom. Seems cash flow wise, you're about a third of the way there. You'll be retiring probably, or have the option to retire within a couple of years, having only started about 5 years ago now. So less than a decade to make work completely optional. When somebody says, can money make you happiness? Or does money bring happiness, Mike? What are your thoughts?
Mixed emotions, because I think that obviously it's very easy for a rich person to say, oh yeah, money doesn't buy happiness. Okay, it's very tough to be unhappy in a Lamborghini. It's very tough to not feel some sort of happiness if you're sitting on a beach and you're not stressed about money. So I think it's easier said than done from that perspective. But obviously, no matter what level of income you have, there's always going to be some sort of struggle in your life. People are going to have their own problems, their own things that they're dealing with. And, for a lot of folks, those are financial burdens. For people that are very wealthy, I mean, I think that we can't really relate to their problems because, oh God, I got to pay to air condition 18 different rooms in my mansion. Nobody's even sleeping in them. I've got 3 pools, all heated. Nobody's swimming. Oh, cry me a river. Those are some first world problems. But ultimately, I think the real problem is, I think that our culture, I think that our mindset is that we're trying to attain happiness. I can't even tell you how much I want to vomit every time I hear or read on some sort of dating profile, what's your long-term goal? Oh, I just want to be happy. Oh, I just want someone who makes me happy. Happiness should not be the goal. Happiness is a fleeting emotion. It's subject to change. It's something that it's not an ongoing state or presence that you can be in. It's a side effect of something else. So what is that something else? If you actually think about what makes you happy or what gives you satisfaction, yeah, sure, we could talk about hedonistic things like going out and partying and, getting drunk or plastered, whatever, yeah, sure. In the moment you get that serotonin hit or that dopamine hit when you scroll on TikTok or you take a vacation. But again, that is the symptom of something that comes. So then what can you do? What can you do to be happy? What can you do to actually feel fulfilled? And I think striving to have fulfillment is a much better goal in my mind. And what makes you fulfilled? And I think it comes down to taking on responsibility. In my life, that's been the case. I know that the more people that I try to help, that is unbelievably fulfilling. I had a young lady reach out to me on Instagram today. She's like, I'm binge watching all of your videos, all of the old ones, even the cringy old ones. And she's like, I feel like you're more relatable than so many other YouTubers. I feel like you put out a story that a lot of other people don't. You give specifics. You seem down to earth. I feel confident reaching out to talk to you. Like that type of stuff is unbelievably fulfilling, that I've spent 5 years making videos that nobody watches. No offense to the 5 people out there who watch them. Thank you. 3 of those are my grandma on ghost accounts. Thanks, grandma. But it's so fulfilling when you see somebody like Darius get his first rental property, and I helped him go from making 13 an hour at Starbucks, I was like, dude, get this job at a security company, look at this rental property and buy it. Here's your agent. And then he does all that stuff. And now he's got a rental. Now he's got two. He's about to buy his third. And I can tell that story for about 15 other people that I've helped that message me and talk to me on Instagram. And now, am I constantly chasing that happiness dopamine high? No, what I do is I'm in the trenches, making videos, working my regular job, talking to hundreds of people who never do anything, who waste my time, for lack of a better phrase, to get just a small percentage of people who actually do something concrete that changes their life. I think if we look back throughout all of history, we are extremely privileged. Men as young as 14 years old were dying in ditches and wars throughout most of our lives. They weren't happy. They did what they had to do because that was what you had to do. That was what was expected of you. And we respect what they did, but I think being fulfilled, living a fulfilled life, living up to your potential, living up to your purposes, taking care of others, making a sacrifice to take care of others, all of those things will lead you to have the side effect of being happy at some point. But certainly in the moment, there's a lot of struggle and toil and stress and uncertainty and anxiety. And that's why even when I retire from being a police officer, I'll never be able to retire, because I'm in love with the journey. I'm in love with the process. If I actually get it like a dog chasing a car, I wouldn't know what to do. I just like the chase. It's more fun. And Dion, I know you're familiar with loving the chase, maybe in a different realm, but.
Right. But there's a life's lesson that's coming your way soon where love is fleeting. Eventually your love changes. But we're going to stay off of that topic. So there's a couple of different ways of looking at this. The first one is money won't make you happy. But if you have a problem where you need money to pay for a surgery, to pay for housing, to pay for food, to pay for anything that you're looking at, you're right in that life is part of the fulfillment of life is accomplishment, facing a challenge and solving it. But imagine if people could go to work for a job that they love for that fulfillment instead of a job they have to do for the income to solve their problems. So they've done several studies on how much money you make or have can dictate your level of happiness up to a certain point. And there's two flaws with it. So the one of the studies, and this was done probably 20 years ago, they went up to $75,000 a year in income. They said, if you're making $20,000 a year in income or $40,000 a year in income, it's significantly more likely that you're happy making 40,000 than at 20, because you can cover the basic expenses. You have housing, transportation, probably healthcare. You might not be able to eat out every day, but you can get, the type of food that you want between literally 20 and 40,000. From 40 to 60, you might have a nicer car, more safe, better features. You might live in a better neighborhood, but above 75,000, this was 20 years ago. So now it's probably around 100,000. If anywhere that you increase your income up to 100,000, your quality of life, your standard of life, where you can live can change. And if you're making $30,000 a year, you're probably not living in Seattle, LA, New York, San Francisco. Not that most of us would want to live in those areas, but there are people who would like to have the LA weather, pay the weather tax, right? Or whatever they're attracted to that city life for, they can't do it making 30,000. Probably not 60 or 80, but at around 100, you might not live in a nice place, but you can almost live anywhere in the country. So your quality of life can change up to that. The study points out that once you go above 75,000, from 20 years ago, so now 100,000 with inflation, your life doesn't change much. You have the house that you need. You have the type of vehicles you have. You can take vacations. And so they say money brings you happiness up to a point. And it's not that it brings you happiness, it's that it eliminates so many of the aspects of life that cause the opposite of happiness. The depression, the anger, the anxiety that comes from not being able to do the things that you would just like to live a basic life is alleviated by making up to that average. So there's two things that they miss there. The first one is they never talk about the source of those incomes. If you make $20,000 a year at a job you love and are excited, you're a tour guide at your favorite national park, and you just love going to work every day, you're probably going to be happier than the person making $100,000 a year at a job they hate, who then has the better options in life, right? So the source of that income is also a factor in, does money bring you happiness? And in my example, it's a source of income that doesn't come from selling your life 1 hour at a time. When you develop streams of income that don't take your time, don't take 40, 50, 60 hours a week for you to generate that, now that time freedom puts happiness or sadness or depression or anxiety more in your lap. You get to choose, what do I want to do today? If you're not having to work for money, it can be things that make you happy. It can be helping other people. It can be completely avoiding other people. Move to Portugal. So you can pick what you're doing. If the income source isn't coming from your W-2 job, you're more likely to be happy. Then there are people that say, well, I wouldn't want to be able to retire early because without work, I would have no purpose. And how sad is a person whose purpose comes from their job that they have to be paid to be there? So think about ways of adding income sources to your income that don't take up more of your time. Then the other thing that I want to talk about were, can money bring you happiness? And this is something from, I think, a Chris Rock special from a decade ago. He gave an analogy of a person making $30,000 a year, going through a divorce, losing half their assets and having to pay alimony and child support. If you take $30,000 a year, you take away half the assets of whatever you've been able to accrue, and then you add alimony and child support to either the guy or the girl, whoever lost in that divorce, probably going to be pretty upset, angry, sad. But if you're making $20 million a year, and he named a sports ball player, which I don't remember who, that was making $20 million a year, and they go through a divorce and they literally live half, you have $10 million a year coming in. Even if you lost half of your income, you're probably going to be pretty bitter about the divorce. But all of the things in life that you have to deal with are not going to be making you upset. And this live stream, the purpose of this live stream is to answer some questions. So if you have questions about reaching financial freedom, comments on can money make you happy or not, please leave it in the chat. We're going to get to as many as we can. The last thing I want to wrap up with before I get to those comments is I think this was a Jason Hartman. All Nighter Hider says he's at a conference right now where he's talking. It could have been a Gammon reference or Hartman, but it was somebody who was talking about a very wealthy person was having their house built. And it was like a $3 or $4 million project to have their dream house built. And this person has the house in the area that they want. It has the view that they want. It's in the neighborhood that they want. It has all the aspects around it that they want. Every feature of the house is going to be specifically designed and tailored to the wishes of this person who literally had their house designed around their dream house. And he was going to his project that was under construction, and he was stressed out because permit delays, funding sources from banks going through, getting contractors to get things, delayed in windows being delivered, whatever the current stress and anger that he was experiencing because of this project going on was so stressful. And he got to the job site, and there were all these workers, construction workers, that were doing drywall, doing whatever part of the job that they were on, which is hard physical work. They had music playing, they were laughing, they were joking with each other. They were all having an extremely good day at work, doing what they enjoyed. And the guy having his house built had to sit back and look at life and think, I'm literally having my dream house built in the area that I want. I have the resources to do this, and I'm angry and upset. And these guys, and in his mind, probably making, a fraction of what they're making, are just having a great day. How irritating is that? That money is not bringing that person happiness, because not only the sources of their income or how much they have, but what are they doing with the money? So think about that. When you have money coming in, what are you doing with your money? Are you thinking, no matter what level of income you get to, are you thinking, I need to chase the next best asset? I need to recycle my capital. I need to make sure every dollar is working as hard as possible. Or do you think, here's where is enough? I need to work really hard and for several years to get to enough. And beyond that, I'll probably still add rentals. I'll probably still look for other sources of income. I'll probably look at my finances to make sure I'm not making stupid decisions. But I'm actually going to enjoy my money and my time. Then money can bring you happiness. That was not a dig against you, Mike.
I didn't take it as such.
Okay, good. Well, then I missed. Let me try again. because we've done a video on that. I think I've done it with the three amigos. What is enough? Right? What is that amount of enough where you stop chasing the next asset?
I think it's just different per person. I think people have different goals, but ultimately, I think too many people are focused on a very fleeting feeling of happiness, and they would be much more fulfilled if they took on some responsibility and worked with other people. You're right. People are going to be miserable if they're going to a job they hate. But by the same token, I think it's stupid when someone says, oh yeah, just find something you love and then you'll never have to work a day in your life. Well, that's what leads people to go to 4 years of college and get an art history major degree because I really love art. Yeah, okay, great. Now you have a bunch of debt and you can't get a good job with that degree, so you're an idiot. Sometimes you do have to sacrifice. Sometimes you have to do jobs that you don't like, and eventually you can work your way into the job that you do like. It's okay to suffer in the short term. It's okay to make sacrifices in the short term. That's part of the journey, part of the process. And all of that can be leading towards a goal at the end. And when you achieve it, guess what? You're going to feel pretty happy, but you can also feel happy along the way because there's a lot of milestones and markers. I'm not at financial freedom yet, but man, I've hit milestone after milestone. I've had win after win. I've put a bunch of points up on the scoreboard and it feels good every time that I do it. So you got to learn to love the process. And is it fun when something bad happens? Does it suck to have to get up at 4 a.m. and pay a babysitter to come sit with my son for a couple of hours, go work 10 hours, have some people hate me, occasionally get shot at, come home, pick my kid up. Like all I do is from morning until night is work. If it's not actual work or time with my son, it's YouTube or real estate stuff. I mean, my day is so packed. All I'm doing is working. Most people look at me and say things like, why don't you slow down? You're doing too much. You need to take a break. And I understand that comes from a place of kindness because they couldn't possibly understand the level of output that I'm doing and what my long-term goals are. And if I was to even sit there and tell them what I really wanted to do with my life and how much I truly believed in myself, I'd probably come across as an arrogant jerk, which I am. I just try not to come across as one too much. But, sometimes you just have to get around people who have similar goals. Yeah. That's another reason I mentioned Darius earlier. Darius works 80 hours a week, every week for a year. His parents think he's crazy. Some of his friends think he's crazy. People that he works with get angry at him when they see his paycheck. Well, why are you angry at him? He worked 40 hours of overtime and you just did 40 hours of straight time. He did 40 hours of overtime. He's got friends that he goes to church group with who are like, oh, you're too worldly. All you care about is money. And they insult him and they put him down for it. I mean, and I hear these stories and I tell him the same thing every time he gets discouraged. It's like, look, man, nobody doing more than you will ever insult you for working too hard. The only people who will are people who are jealous. They don't get it. They don't understand. You're a thorn in their side every time they look at their condition and their life and what they are lacking in. And then they see you bettering yourself. And some people are proud of you and some people get bitter and angry and resentful for it. So screw what they say, keep on plugging away. And he's going to buy his third rental cash because of it. I don't know how I just went through like 9 topics. Anyways, hopefully there's some questions.
No, it was great with Darius when we went to Gary to watch his expressions of the emotions he went through when he realized he purchased a rental, he fixed it up nice, and a family lives there. Like he's literally made a house that is someone's home. Yep. Yeah, he'll benefit. He'll get money out of it. That money that comes in, how it's tied to what he did is going to make him happy. I don't think working 80 hours a week makes him happy.
No.
The paycheck coming in to be put to work to do something that is productive, that is challenging, that he enjoys is how that money is going to make him happy. What you do with the money can determine if it works for you or not. I see Dividend Dave wasn't first today. He loses his streak. That's terrible.
Rookie.
Robert Negley jumps in here. He says, yes, the answer is yes. Money can be. And there was somebody here below. I think it was the wealth building journey. Money only improves the quality of life to a point. True. And I thought I saw one where somebody said, and I lost the chat. I'll find it again, I'm sure. JR, money is always a problem no matter who you are. You get to pick if you want the problems of not enough money or too much money. And I don't think most people, because there's very specific times where too much money is a problem. You have $4 million in a bank, and then that bank goes up and FDIC only insures 250,000, you will instantly feel like you had too much money in that bank. Right? So you have to think of how specific is it when the problem is that you have too much money. There's a point where you can have too much money. I was watching Zuber this morning, and he went to a syndication meeting, and I think it was in Vegas, where he was watching syndication education. So at no level do we really stop learning if we don't want to. He's still going to those things to learn. He decided not to do it. But the thought I took away from it was, one of the reasons why I like buy and hold real estate in Class C neighborhoods with small multifamily, 4 units or less instead of 20 unit apartment complexes, or being in a syndication of 500, is I can completely blow a deal. I can run the numbers on. You could have messed up one of your BRRRRs, not been able to refinance, and you literally couldn't have pulled a penny out of a $100,000 purchase. And with your income and the size of your portfolio, you would have sat back and said, wow, I really blew that. I now have an expense every month of, maybe a couple $1,000 in the worst case that you just have to deal with. But if you're in a 20 unit, a 50 unit, or a syndication, and somebody puts the decimal point in the wrong place on a decision that comes into play 2 years from now, projected rent increases, estimated interest rate, levels, you could do what Zuber talks about. There's that guy had $10 million in assets gone when the recession hit and the housing crash hit, bad debt structure. So if you're growing and you have too much money and you get too big for your pants, right? The way my brother says, too big for your britches, you can make decisions that tank all of your other investing. Too much money can be an issue too.
I think we need to talk about problems, because I think that we need more problems. Somebody made the comment, it was what you just read, JR said, money's a problem no matter who you are. You get to pick if you want the problems of not enough money or too much money. But look at your problems, man. You need bigger problems. This is something that, like, when I was chatting with a lumberjack, when I was talking to Matt, and he's telling me, yeah, I got 20 different properties right now that aren't bringing in rent because 15 of them are under construction. 5 of them are going through an eviction. That is a major 15 aren't bringing it in, and then another 5 because of eviction. You got 20 units that are not producing money. That is a major problem. But what does that problem actually mean? It means that that's only 10% of the total number of units that he really has, because he has a huge problem, but he also has this massive solution. Like, I wish that my problems of having 1 or 2 units not pay, I wish that I could get to his level of problem. You're going to have a problem. It's going to create the same amount of stress in your mind or in your life, no matter you're the guy with 1 unit out of 10 or 10 out of 100 or 20 out of 150 or whatever it is. I want those bigger problems, and you shouldn't run away from them. Embrace it and say to yourself, if I'm going to devote the emotional energy and the struggle and the stress to solving these problems, I better at least solve the hardest, most difficult ones that I'm capable of doing, because I'm going to feel like this no matter what. And guess what? You get paid proportional to the difficulty of the problems that you save. So figure out how to get more problems.
There's an economy of scale where, with the portfolio of like ours, we would like to have Matt's problems, right? Yeah. Even though I don't want that many units, it'd be kind of nice to where 10 to 15% of my portfolio was a problem, which made it easy to handle, right? There are people who, when I talk about not even problems, but just the day-to-day management of my property. I just took a trip with my brother, right? And so here's an example of 2 different ways of looking at something. We're both financially free, both retired, both living off rental income, which is, 3 or 4 times what it takes us to live. So we could do pretty much anything we want. While we were on the trip, I had 3 refrigerators fail. So it's just weird, random timing. I had to buy 2, had 1 in storage. I had a garage door motor go out. I had a shower turn on, not turn off. And for me, it was 3 or 4 emails, a couple text messages, and a couple payments to handyman. That was it. All of those issues on that trip probably took me, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes to resolve all of them combined. There are people who would say, I don't want to be a landlord because look at what you have to deal with. 30 minutes in over a month of traveling to manage the portfolio versus 40 to 60 hours a week to get a paycheck of dealing with your employer's problems. Really, why people have a job is to solve the problems for the employers, to do the tasks for the employers. There are people who say that and they wouldn't want those problems. My brother on this trip had an electrical issue and a heater go out. So he's planned to fix these things himself. Like the idea of hiring somebody to fix it is just not in his world. And so when he talks about being a landlord, if he goes to somebody and he goes, yeah, I've got this heater that went out and I think it's in California. So it's going to be a trip, staying wherever he is, fixing it, the physical manual labor, delivering all that himself, and then a trip back. Now, in his mind, this is a reason to take a trip to California to hang out with my other brother, a full tax write-off. He's going to enjoy the work himself. There are people that would listen to him say that and say, that's crazy. I would never want to own a rental. Look at all the work you have to do. So when we hear about somebody like Matt saying, I have, 10 or 15 places not paying, I'm stabilizing, I have $600,000 in rehabs going on, it sounds like, wow, I would never want that. He doesn't talk about his numbers. Imagine the income you have if you have $600,000 in rehabs going, and it's a small percentage of your portfolio that's getting worked on.
What a jerk.
We would love to have some of those problems. Michael, the main reason I like listening to you guys is because I feel like you're relatable, even though our lives, goals, and markets we invest in are quite different. One of the things I really like about us talking is the markets we invest in are different. The strategies we use are different. Our goals are very different. I'm looking forward to the event on Zuber's channel where it's the REI Avengers. So you, me, Matt, Mike, the Lumberjack Landlord, and Mike Zuber for hours answering questions. I will be kind of the black sheep with I don't want over 100 units. I don't want to grow. I wanted to reach financial freedom to retire. You want to reach financial freedom so you can go on to the next venture. You talk about a realtor license and moving and still doing all these things. I think when people get information from us, they need to hear a little bit of each one. There are people who are just as lazy as me and want a few units with the biggest cash flow, who their market probably doesn't work. So they need your investing in a distant strategy to do my strategy. It all comes together. There are people who would want property management because they don't have the skill set to have a business mind, to have too big a heart. I just did what do you call it? Somebody booked an hour of my time. We had it was a bit over an hour, but we talked their portfolio, their goals, and it was really fun because it's amazing what we don't know. Right. And I'm never going to mention the people's names during those hours because I don't know who would be watching that know. And I'm not going to give out too much of the details. But I was talking with my brother on this trip. He associated all mortgages, every type of loan that wasn't where you live. So if you live, that's what he thought a residential loan is where you live because it's your residence. Some lender told him if you have tenants, those are commercial loans, and they're all like a HELOC. And a HELOC can be called at any time. He heard that sentence and he anchored on that and he thought, okay, that's how all other mortgages work. He was convinced the reason all of us were going to fail is that we didn't have residential loans and that our mortgages can be called any day. They all have adjustable rates. They all work like HELOCs because he had heard it 20 or 30 years ago from a lender and had never, if he reads, it's Louis L'Amour, right? It's not Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's not One Rental at a Time. It's any of those books. And he's not really content, he doesn't watch YouTube to learn about investing because he reached financial freedom in a simple way that worked for him. When I did this call, this person has a property manager with Section 8, and the property manager had them convinced that you don't raise rents because you could, tenants, the Section 8 tenants has a payment of, $100 to $300, and they struggle to make that. If you raise the rents, the tenant's going to have to pay the remainder of whatever you raised it. So a decade of Section 8 tenants, so much so that they sold a couple because they just couldn't make money because they never raised the rents. It's that number one mistake that people make.
Yep.
Having that call, taking them to the HUD website and saying, here's the county, here's where you live, here's where you invest, here's what Section 8 will pay. Like it was just an eye-opening moment watching a different strategy. Even Matt didn't use Section 8 for the first, 18 years. He didn't start until the last couple of years when he thought, oh, that's how you diversify your portfolios. You have some Section 8. There was It was an attack on me from Miguel. Dion will never chase a woman, only in Portugal. If you will always lose money chasing a woman, but you will never lose women chasing money.
Oh, I read some stat. God, I have to try to find it. It was something like the average man, just the average man in his pursuit of women will spend like $250,000 in their lifetime. And I don't think that included after being married. It was like the average amount of money a guy will spend in his life in attempting to get a woman is going to be $250,000. Can you imagine if you invested that? Don't waste it. Take her to McDonald's. No, McDonald's is expensive nowadays, to take it back. Friggin', it's more pricey than Olive Garden. Take her to Wendy's, 4 for $4, which they canceled. It's now the $5 biggie bag. Take her someplace, make her earn you. You deserve it.
It's like that meme. If I had $1 for every girl that didn't find me attractive, eventually they would find me attractive.
Right. Yes.
Troy, howdy. REI Stoners, and I thought I was doing overtime. Duplex Dave, howdy. Hanging up the gun belt after 20 years in a couple of weeks. Congratulations. Hoping to find something fulfilling part-time as I continue building the rental portfolio. Awesome.
Must be a cop, unless he's in the military. Do you know?
It sounds law enforcement to me, hanging up the gun belt.
My man.
So
mine's right here.
All right, Stoners, I only put in 14 hours yesterday. I went to dinner with my kids last night, and my son was wiped out because he worked like, I don't know, he says, I only did like 68 hours this week. The week before was the rough one. And he doesn't watch my content if it's longer than 10 minutes, so I feel okay saying this. If he'd start buying rentals, he might not have to work that long, like REI Stoners' plan. Laura, howdy. Do you ever get burnout? Mike just needs to take a day off with your son.
I take time. I spend time with my son. Obviously, he needs to have time with his dad. Doesn't have a mom. But I still work every single day. Every single day, I'm doing something that's either related to real estate, the YouTube channel, or regular work. But yes, I do prioritize spending time with my son. And after this, we're probably gonna go down to the lake. It's supposed to be 90 today. So we're gonna get down there and go down to the lake. And then we'll go play soccer a little bit later. I just try to make sure that I incorporate him on things that I do. Like I need to exercise. Like I'm not going to get old without a fight. I'm gonna go down swinging. And so I probably play soccer or basketball 4 times a week. I go to the gym 4 times a week. So there's 8 different times where I'm exercising. My son comes with me to soccer and basketball, and we kick the ball around before we shoot the ball around, and he comes with me to the gym, and then I let him go swimming when I'm done lifting weights. So I make sure that I incorporate him where I can. In terms of burnout, absolutely, man. I get exhausted. I get unbelievably tired. I don't want to get up. I don't want to go to work. Something that I pride myself in is that I'm very reliable. Like I haven't taken a sick day this year. In fact, I didn't take any sick days last year, except for when I was mandatorily told to go home because I had the vid. But not because I'm one of those lemmings who's like, oh yeah, I'm so impressed that I don't take any sick days, but like, I like to be productive. I think it's good to be productive. And I think you need to have that like frame of mind. How bad do you want your goal? If I take time off, if I don't work hard enough, all I'm doing is delaying the amount of time before I can get to what I really want, which is to be able to retire early. So sure, I could take that day or I could take that week now, but I'm just stacking that day or that week on the back end later. I'd rather just work through my lunches so I can get off early. It's the freaking concept.
So, Josh, Mike, here's something that you might experience as you get closer. I have a friend, loves work, very productive. I don't think she's ever thought of not working. She has a master's degree in operational change management, 2 different bachelor's degrees. She's worked in several different fields. Every time she gets a job with a company, she gets put into a management role. She's worked at Peloton, before they did their US change, and has had several great jobs and always excited to go to work. Started buying rentals. She's 1 rental away from her freedom number and retiring. The last couple of months are the first time in a decade that I've ever heard her say, oh, this is a long week. I'm exhausted. Because as you get closer to that, I'm going to make a phone call. I'm going to have the Zoom meeting. I'm going to say, hey, this is my last couple of weeks, whatever. Your brain starts to realize every single day that you're working right now is totally worth it. That 8 to 12, 14, whatever hours you are putting to work to take the money to put it to work seems worth it for a period of time. But when you get really close, those last few months are going to be very hard to convince yourself that you're excited to go to work.
I believe it. No, I remember when I switched from working at the construction company to being a police officer, and I knew it was coming, and I was like, oh, I don't want to be here. This is the worst. But I still went. It's about your mindset. You got to push through. And I'm sure I will get that again. Cause yeah, at some point it's gonna be like, why am I wasting my time when I could be? I get it. But that being said, I like to have something to keep me busy to work on.
There's a question here from the Wealth Building Journey. Dion, small question. Have you done a members only live stream recently? I haven't been getting some YouTube notifications recently. So it was 2 Saturdays ago that we did a members only, then the Saturday before that. So we did 2 towards the end of April. Probably, I don't want to commit 100% to this. So it's definitely going to happen. Not next Saturday. Next Saturday is our event in Portland. So I won't be able to do a members only. So I'm probably going to be able to do a members only this afternoon. This live stream has to wrap up by 12 because today at noon, there's a course Zoom meeting where, we dig deep into each person's scenario. Those have been going really well. That will not happen next Saturday as well. I'll mention that in Tuesday's live. Next Saturday, we're going to be in Portland at the Northwest Action Summit. So I won't be able to do those, but they will happen the following Saturday. So there's probably going to be a members only this afternoon. And that is, again, we look at the members only live streams we look at deals in my market or your market. And now that I've actually decided not to look in Portugal, I'm very active again on what I'm looking at here. I made 2 offers and I helped a friend make an offer this week on properties, and we'll see how they go. I'm looking to put my money to work. So I would like that to be the members only live stream. Hopefully today, if I can schedule it. So that would probably be like 2 or 3 p.m. Pacific. I'll know like an hour before, and I will get that up on YouTube. So hopefully people get notification of it. That's the plan. I hope party. Howdy. RAS Donors loves your drive mic, but likes to nap like me.
Yeah, I get it, man. I'm with you.
I have discovered since retiring that I don't have a sleep schedule. I just sometimes take a nap in the middle of the night. The rest of the time, it could be at any random time. Made it easy to travel. It was like an 8-9 hour time difference, and I never really noticed. Laura, howdy. It was awesome meeting you, Tall Nighter Hider. Great conversation. I'm so glad we were able to make it happen. Enjoy your conference. Nice. The wealth building journey. So that's unacceptable. The book of numbers. Take her to Taco Bell. Jay, I like that. Take that $250,000 and get 2 rentals. Yeah. Oh, federal Leo. Nice. Duplex, Dave. Cool. Type A personalities. Clover. That average only applies to ugly guys. You've seen me. I have a face made for radio. Phil Nealand. Howdy. Thanks for the super chat. You're in the course today at noon. Hopefully you can make it. Phil, you're number 4. Grandma taking action. 0 to hero. As you get closer to your freedom number, the harder it is to stay consistent working long hours. Absolutely. Luckily for me, I actually don't think I planned on retiring for another 10 years. I just liked my job. I enjoyed going to work. Said it several times in videos. Until one day I did a video on a whiteboard going, let me go through my cash flow. This is what I make if I had a 40-hour job. This is what I make if I 24 hours a day. And at the end of that, I realized going to work was kind of stupid. And it was literally like 2 weeks later. So I only had 2 weeks of, this 60 hours a week is kind of silly.
Yeah, I remember asking you anytime between now and the next 3 years, and you said it over and over again, and then all of a sudden, boom! Like, you really meant that, and it was within like the next 2 months. So, and 0 to hero, that's Darius. So Darius, I just roasted you at the beginning of this live stream. Sorry, buddy. Love you, man.
Richard, I have 10 units spread over 3 houses. I self-manage and do most work myself. Used to love it, now a little tired of it. I'm 68 years old, live in Brooklyn, New York. Right. So there's a chapter in One Rental at a Time's second book, The 15 Conversations with Real Estate Millionaires, where there's a woman in her 70s and she's exiting the portfolio, and she makes a comment asking, have you ever met a 75-year-old self-managing their rentals that does a good job? And it's not a dig against somebody who's 75. You have a ton of experience, but if you have the experience, you've been doing it, you're probably burnt out. So there's a levels of gradation of taking yourself out of it. Some people, Zuber talked about taking $1 or $2 million and selling, that much worth of property, putting that much money to work into syndications using the cash flow, more hands off than even having a property manager. You're self-managing, you're doing the work. So the first thing at 68 that I would do is develop relationships with local handymen. Take this is, and I'm making a video. This is the Cliff Notes version of what the video will be like. It's how to find your handyman, right? Take the Thumbtack app, right? It works in almost every area in the US. Have a couple of small projects done. And most of the contractors on Thumbtack, while they advertise as garage door, plumbing, electric, whatever, they are almost general contractors that are advertising in several different categories on Thumbtack. And when you have the work done, ask them, what else do you do? Build a relationship. Find the ones that have a good price, have a good reputation. Use them on simple projects that you could do yourself to judge their work, so that if it isn't good, you can fix it yourself. But two, get that list of people that you can call, so less of it is done by you. At some point, maybe look at property management. If you're 68 and you've owned your properties for a while, if there's at the point where you have, 2005 or 2003 purchase prices with 2023 rents, there is enough of margin there to start adding property management, even if you've been managing yourself, to get your time freedom back, all the way down to the people who do something like what might happen with me and Mike. I'm in my 50s, just turned 53 a couple days ago. And when I'm in my 70s, I don't know if my kids are going to express any interest in real estate. They might not ever pick it up, right? So I take my entire portfolio and I sell it to somebody like Mike on a seller finance. All the properties are paid off because I don't do HELOCs, cash out refinance. I have all the properties paid off. He just takes it over. I take that set amount, and in my late 70s, I use that as my fixed income on a 30-year fixed rate debt to somebody like Mike or an investor who has a brain, right? And then when I pass, all that is just a note that goes to my kids. So they don't have to own real estate, have managed properties, and just as hands off as you can possibly be. So kind of, Richard, it depends on your situation. Do you have people that are going to inherit it? Are they interested in real estate? Is there a way to have them take over the business? So there you go, Mike. I just spelt out the next 30 years.
Yeah. I mean, you don't even have to wait that long. You want to sell or finance it to me now, we'll make it happen.
Some of those would have to be a wrap because I'm still mortgaged.
That's right. You'll be all right.
I'll be all right.
By the time you're 70, I'll be 50.
I think it's exactly how it's going to work. Both of us making jokes, like thinking I'm going to make it to 70.
We're both.
I know what my last words are going to be. Honey, is that loaded?
Oh, yeah, that's. I'm not going to get myself in trouble. We can talk about that later.
Yeah.
I took
the
that
wealth building
advice
journey.
very
Dion,
seriously.
do you have time-based exit strategy for your portfolio? And literally what we just talked about, such as when you get to 70, say 65 or 70, or when you don't feel like you can keep going at the same level you used to. So the last 3 minutes of talking, exactly that. I've already transitioned to, I'm not going, I went and painted a ceiling last year. That was my extent of, I really wanted to just go see the tent. Tent's actually, I want to say family member, friend. I want handymen and contractors to handle everything, so I'm not doing that. I just spent over a month in another country, had several issues, all handled with text and email. I think until my actual mental faculties start working like my memory, I'm going to be able to do this. My exit strategy is probably finding a good investor with a track record like Mike's and saying, entire portfolio, owner, financed, here you go. My properties are all paid off. Live on cash flow. That's my time-based exit strategy, which is ethereal and not nailed down right now. Who knows what's going to happen by 2030, you will own nothing and you will be happy, or whatever platform they're trying to run on now. Thank you for the happy birthday wishes.
Yeah, I didn't know it was your birthday 2 or 3 days ago. Happy birthday, dude.
That's okay. I'm not a big birthday celebrator. I celebrate every day. Every day is my birthday.
Every day's Saturday. I hate my birthday too, and I never celebrate it, so I don't blame you.
Yep. REI Cowboy. Howdy. Hey, Mike, I appreciate your transparency about only investing $85K and making $3,400 a month. You made me realize, I saw this comment, I need to recycle capital. I invested $132K and make $2,000 a month. When did you invest at REI Cowboy, and how many years have passed since you started? There's a lot of other factors there to go. And my opinion, this is just my opinion. I've heard this several places though. I wouldn't compare yourself to Mike. Mike shouldn't compare himself to me. You should compare yourself to you last year. Mike should compare himself to himself last year. But $2,000 a month with $132,000 invested, so $24,000 a year on 132, you're well over a 10% return on what you have invested. That's not, you're not going to get anywhere like that on stocks, and that's your cash flow. And we've had 19, 24, in Seattle had 31, but appreciation gains in the last couple of years. You're not counting that. You've had principal pay down. You're not paying taxes on that. I think $2,000 a month with $132,000 invested is amazing.
Yeah. Edwin's a good dude. I think he's got 4 rental properties right now, if I remember right. That's REI Cowboy. He is also law enforcement. I think this is also the year he retires. It might be next year. He's in his final 2. The way law enforcement works, it's like your last 2 years is what they base your retirement off of. So you want to work a bunch of overtime, so you have a higher salary for your retirement. So he's in his final home stretch. Another guy who's about to call it quits. I believe it's 4 rentals in. They're in Iowa or Ohio. Sorry if I'm getting that wrong, buddy. He's a good dude. But yes, recycling capital is a very powerful tool. Not for everybody. There's risks that come with it. You watch that video that Dion and I made where we talked about how much money we put in, and my number was really small because I recycled capital multiple times. And I know that you've already watched the videos on my channel. I just released my 9th rental property, the triplex. I released all the numbers on that video a couple days ago, and a HELOC video before that. But before you just jump in with a HELOC, do your due diligence and understand what you're going to be paying as a holding cost. And there's a lot of risk, but yes, it's a very powerful tool that I highly recommend, only if you do it right. Ohio, so we have 2 months left, bro. Freaking
couple people in the chat getting close to retiring in law enforcement in those last couple months. This is when, and you don't need me to say this, you've heard this for 2 decades. This is when you stay diligent. You don't get complacent. You're so close, because there's too many stories of big mistake last couple of days. Yeah. Thank you all for the birthday wishes. I appreciate it. This was, and I'm gonna see if anybody can get this in the comments. And don't say anything, Mike, because I think you know what this is. This was one of my presents from one of my kids. I swear by my pretty floral bonnet, I will end you. Tell me the name of the show.
I don't
Not
know.
Mike. Okay, fair enough. Your nerd is no good here.
I know all the things that you nerd out for, so I could probably take a couple guesses and get it, but I don't know.
Duplex Dave, finally finishing. Yep, Mandy, awesome. Exactly. Finally finishing the CapEx expenses of $70K for the past 6 months. I need to build more reserves to sleep comfortably going forward. And now that those CapEx expenses are done, you have protected assets. You're going to have. Yeah, I love doing that. People kind of freak out in the beginning when you put a roof on or something. And I'm like, no, I have a roof. I might not have to worry about it again in my lifetime. Thanks again for all the birthday wishes. Jay, quick question. Wanting to do an upgrade on a fence and some pavers and give my house some curb appeal so I can get it reevaluated possibly in April of next year to get the PMA off. Do you think prices will still be up? Do you think prices are still going to be up in a year, Mike? And I'm going to answer 2 questions in there, but that's the first question to you.
Depends on what market, depends on what asset type, depends on where in the market that asset type is. Is it above the median? Is it below the median? Is it commercial? Is it residential? And where? Boise, some parts of Arizona, some parts of Texas, like Houston. Some of these markets are experiencing some price declines, but that's because they were the most overinflated. Most of those price declines are coming above the median. Seems like things are converging into the median. Things below the median are still rocketing upwards, still a lot of competition, but things above the median are coming down a little bit. So there's so many different variables that really you need to study your own market and be an expert in your own market. Because I can tell you what I think Gary's going to do. Do I think that single family houses or duplexes or due to small multi-units are going to come down in price? No, I think they're going to hold exactly where they are and continue to increase at 2 to 3% a year like they've done forever. That's what I think my market's going to do.
Right. You nailed it with real estate is local. Know your market. What is the asset type? I think if you're doing curb appeal on something like this, where you're talking fence and pavers, you're probably not talking 20 unit complex, right? So you're probably talking residential. I still am in the belief that we printed more money in the last 2.5 years than we did in the last 2 centuries. So inflation is a thing. So the first question is, do I think prices will be up? I do, but that you can't really say that because it is local. What else is going on in your market? Did Boeing just move a plant away or something, right? So you'll know if there's still demand in your area. But what is the debt structure? If you have PMI on a mortgage that you had for a couple of years, when did you buy it? It said, you didn't say when you bought it, and you have a 3% interest rate. And the way your loan works to pull the PMI off, if it's conventional, they might be able to take it off automatically by doing an assessment. But if it's an FHA, it takes a refinance. If you're going to refinance and double your rate, your PMI is probably the cheaper way to go, right? So first, what type of loan product? Not first, but one of the things to consider: what type of loan product? What's it going to actually do to your payment? I don't know that curb appeal is going to improve your evaluation. What are the rents you've been getting, and what are comps? If it's 4 units or less, the valuation is based on comps. Not you can have literally 15-year-old, what do they call it, laminate counters or brand new granite that you just put in and spent 15 grand on, and that has zero impact on what the valuation on your house is going to be. Curb appeal matters to owners, maybe buyers, not renters and not lenders. So your appraisal is going to be based on comps. Look at the comps in your area and see what's been going on with them. Before I spent money on a bunch of curb appeal stuff, I would actually reach out to a couple of appraisers and say, in this area, what can I do to significantly improve the value of my property? That could be, in some areas, add a carport. It could be adjust your rents. Use the binder strategy before. Show your rents, actual current physical rents. Do a rent box study and make sure you can present examples of what you based your evaluation on when you're talking to the appraiser. And then everything that Mike talked about. Yeah, so it's conventional, so maybe it'll come off. You'll have to have 22% equity for it to come off. I know if you finance less than or more than 80%. So if you're at 20% or less, you get PMI. It goes away once you hit 22. So if you're really close at 20, that's not going to work. Okay, I think we're going to be wrapping up there because I've got to get over to the course. So if you're in the course, I will see you on the Zoom. The Zoom will be in it's the same link from last one on Mighty Networks. Brock, do you guys get your tenants to change the AC heater filters in the unit themselves, or do you send a handyman to do it? Mike, you're property management, so.
Property manager takes care of all of that for me. And then my duplex here, I do it myself.
So I generally, for the first few years, I did it myself once a year. And now I have a handyman do it once a year, but they leave the other filters for the tenants to do. There's one where it's kind of intricate to get to, so I have the handyman do it there. The rest where it's literally, you slide it out, you slide it in. There's not even a thing to open or close. But the one is so that there's at least one walkthrough every year by either me or my handyman to look and see what's going on with the property. That's kind of my cheat code to an inspection without disrupting the tenant. We are going to be wrapping it up there. Remember, the topic of this video is, can money bring you happiness? It brings you options, and options can bring you happiness. Thank you all. Thank you, Mike, for hanging out with us on a Saturday. I appreciate it. Until my next video, Thanks for coming to my Dion Talk. You're off of there.
Do you just roll this Zoom